In anime, there's a common trope of introducing a character who has a really cool power or superpower, and then they don't get enough screen time, or their power is rarely displayed or shown in the show. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about a character who fits that trope in a way, and that character is Momo Yaoyorozu in My Hero Academia. In the first season of the show My Hero Academia, All Might is conducting the first training class for class 1A. It's a training whereby some of them will be villains and some of them will be heroes. It's a training class for villains against heroes, so they're given different objectives that they're supposed to meet as villains or heroes. In one of the episodes, Midoriya and Uraraka are fighting against Ida and Bakugo. So Midoriya and Uraraka are the heroes, Ida and Bakugo are the villains. Anyway, long story short, Midoriya and Uraraka win the challenge or the training class, whatever, and were introduced to Momo. All Might asks why Ida was the best in the challenge, and Momo explains so. So as Momo is explaining, we get to see that she's someone who's very analytical and someone who's very smart and also very observant. She was very much aware of what was happening during the match between the two, and she was very much able to process everything and explain it in such a really great manner. In this same episode of the training class, we're told that Momo is one of the 4 students who have entered UA under recommendations. So basically, all the students who entered UA under recommendations are those that did not have to undergo the formal entrance exam into the school. So as they introduce her like this, I thought that she would be a really hype character, because if she entered the school via recommendations, I thought that she's going to be someone who is going to be a top hero, and they're going to be in a lot of episodes, and their power is going to be shown a lot in the show. In a later episode, Class 1A has to go and do rescue training off campus at the USJ. So during the rescue training center is invaded by a group of villains, and in this episode we can kind of see how Momo's quirk works, and we can see Momo's quirk in action. So Momo's quirk is creation. It allows her to create any non-living object as long as she knows the molecular structure of that object, and we can kind of see that she's able to create metallic paws and fishnets to capture the enemies. She's also able to create a 100mm thick sheet of insulation material so that Kaminari can electrocute all the enemies except her and Jiro to prevent them from getting electrocuted. So we can kind of see Momo's quirk in action and what she can do in this episode. Another time in the series where we get to see Yaoyorozu's powers during the sports festival arc. During this arc, the arc begins with a race. It's a competition, so it begins with a race, and during the race there are some enemies that the students encounter, and we get to see Momo create this cannon to shoot down the enemies, which was cool because we get to see a more offensive side of her quirk, which was not seen as much during the earlier episodes. Also, during the sports festival arc, there are some battles between the students one-on-one. So there is a battle between Momo and Tokoyami. So I thought that this battle would be hype because they both have really cool quirks. Tokoyami having Dark Shadow and Momo having Creation. But you can imagine my disappointment when I watched this battle, because this battle, the whole battle, from the time the announcer says start, the whole fight lasted under a minute. Imagine. Yes, of course, Dark Shadow is this very powerful quirk, but I thought that it was really disappointing that Momo could literally do nothing against Dark Shadow. Like I said, the fight ended way too early. I thought that was kind of lame, and also the way the announcer hypes her up as a student that got into the hero course via recommendations. So another student that's able to get into the hero course via recommendations is Todoroki, half ice, half fire. And you can kind of see how his abilities are exceptional during the whole show, not just during the sports festival arc. But then with Momo, that wasn't the case. Like here in the sports festival arc, of course Dark Shadow is a very strong quirk, so it's understandable that she lost, but she lost way too quickly. Like there was nothing that she could do, which I thought that was really disappointing, because I don't think this fight was actually a bad matchup for her. I think there were some things that she could have done differently and some things that she could have created. It's just that maybe at the time she didn't know Dark Shadow's weakness. But this fight was really disappointing. I thought that this fight could be able to show a more offensive side to her quirk other than creating the canon that we saw earlier. So it was a pretty disappointing scene for me. So we find out that after the sports festival, the students have applied for different internships with pro heroes, and they have all been selected to intern with different pro heroes. We find out that Momo and Kendo from class 1B are interning with the pro hero who is known as the snake hero. But during the internship, we don't really get to see them use their quirks, they're just kind of there. So the snake hero is modeling, and Kendo and Momo are just kind of in the background watching her model, which sucks because I still feel like Momo's quirk creation could have at least been used during the photo shoots. Like maybe she could be able to create props or something on the go, but anyway, it is what it is. Another time we get to see Momo is in the summer training camp arc. So before they go to the summer training camp, we see Mr. Aizawa and the homeroom teacher of class 1B discussing the students' quirks. So Mr. Aizawa is telling the homeroom teacher of class 1B the quirks of the students in class 1A, and he goes over Momo's quirk and he explains that she's able to create these non-living objects using the lipids in her body, which is something that we were not taught earlier on in the show. And as the students go to the training camp, the training camp is being conducted by the Wild Pussycats, and at the training camp, one of the Pussycats is able to create earth monsters from the ground. So we can kind of see Momo recreate the canon that she made during the sports festival in order to take down the monsters. So anyway, the summer training camp is there to improve everyone's quirks generally. So we kind of get to see how Momo is doing this. She's improving her quirk by eating and creating things at the same time. By doing this, she's trying to shorten the amount of time it takes for her to create objects. And she herself also helps to give a detailed explanation on her quirk and how it works. As the students are eating after finishing their training for the day, she kind of explains how her quirk transforms lipids into brand new atoms to create inorganic materials. This means that the more she eats, the more things she can make. So we get a deeper understanding of her quirk and also the other students' quirks during this summer training camp. In the evening at the summer training camp, there's an activity between class 1A and class 1B, but we find out that villains have invaded the summer training camp. Is it me, or there are just a lot of villains that are just invading in this show? Maybe let's just call it my villain invasion academia or something. Anyway, there's a group of villains that have invaded the summer training camp, and one of the villains' powers is producing this noxious gas. So this gas, once inhaled, puts you to sleep. So we kind of see Momo's quirk used again. She's able to create gas masks, and I think that's what I like about her quirk. It is so versatile. Like the fact that she can create literally anything as long as she knows its molecular structure is crazy. Also, it shows that she's a really hardworking person, and she's someone who studies up a lot on a lot of different items, because a lot of the items she has created so far in the show are so random and are things that you didn't really expect. So anyway, Kendo and Tetsutetsu from class 1B try to search for the person who is creating the gas. Kendo realizes that someone must be creating the gas based on the way the gas is moving around. And even though this is a Momo video, shout out to Kendo and Tetsutetsu for taking out the villain who was creating this obnoxious gas, because this purple gas was really annoying because it has such a big range and anyone can inhale it. Also shout out to Kendo for using her quirk efficiently and showing that even though it may not be the most cool power or cool quirk, it just depends on how you use the quirk, not so much the quirk itself. So that was kind of hype. Also, I still think her quirk is hype. I mean, having big hands is pretty hype, I would say. So during the villains invasion, we find out that the villains are trying to kidnap Bakugo. So we see Momo create a tracking device as a last ditch attempt to find out where the villains are taking Bakugo. So she creates this tracking device, and one of class 1B students puts the tracker on the monster that was sent by the villains. So she was badly injured from this, and then we see after she's been hospitalized that she's also created a locating device device that will show where the tracker is, but I guess this locating device was made after she healed up a bit because she was badly injured from the incident. So after the whole Bakugo kidnapping incident, it's time for the students to prepare for the provisional licensing exam. As they're preparing for this exam, we kind of get to see how they've improved their quirks, and now we can see that Momo can create two things at the same time, whilst in the past she was only able to create one object at a time. During the first stage of the provisional licensing exam, we can kind of see Momo create this shield to prevent herself and also some of class 1A from being hit by these balls. So if you're hit by the ball 3 times on all the 3 markers that are placed on you, you're out. So we can see her creating a shield to protect her and her classmates from getting hit. So the students split up into teams because they know each other's power. So we can kind of see Jiro, Momo, Tsuyu and Shoji split up into a team of 4 because they know each other's powers, so they decide to work together to make it through this first stage. But then they are trapped in a room by another group of students that are trying to take their points away and to get them out of the provisional licensing exam so that they can make it through. So as they are trapped, the other team kind of makes the room cold. They reduce the temperature of the room so that the room starts freezing. This makes Tsuyu fall asleep because she's a frog, so she's essentially going into hibernation. Momo creates a blanket to keep Tsuyu warm whilst she's asleep. So as they are trapped in this room, they have to figure a way out, but Momo can't just use her quirk carelessly because if she runs out of energy, then there'll be nothing that they can do to escape. In her costume, she carries a book. So in this book, I guess the book contains information on the molecular structure of different objects or just different random objects that may be needed during a battle or during training, and just, I guess, a reminder of the things that she can create. So we see her create earmuffs that she is going to give to her teammates, and also she's able to create a sound system. So Jiro plugs in her earphone jack into the sound system in order for her to use her heartbeat distortion move. So when she creates these sound waves, they knock out the opponents that have trapped them in the door. So the opponents are knocked out from the sound waves, and Momo's team is immune from getting hit by these sound waves in the ears because they're wearing noise cancelling headphones. But it turns out that one of the enemies was not knocked out and was hiding behind the door all along. So she plans to capture Momo and trap her inside the door and to take her out of the provisional licensing exam. But Momo still has some energy left in her to create one more item. So she's able to create handcuffs to subdue the enemy from hitting her with one of the balls. And also her friends open up the doors to rescue her from being kicked out of the provisional licensing exam. Now they've made it through the first stage of the provisional licensing exam. During another part of the provisional licensing exam, that is the rescue training part, we can see Ochako trying to run and rescue someone who is trapped under some debris, but Momo creates a small barricade to stop her from rescuing the trapped person because this is not the best way to rescue them. So she's able to create a support beam, and by using Sato's strength and Sero's tape, they're able to hold the structure in an efficient manner so that Uraraka can use her zero gravity safely to move the debris away. So we can kind of see her quirk in use and other objects that she's able to create during the exam. So I completely forgot about an incident that happened after the sports festival. So after the sports festival, the students have to undertake some exams, written exams and practical exams, and in the practical exams it's the students against the teachers. So for the students to win the practical exams, they either have to restrain the teachers in handcuffs or they can just run away from the battlefield. So it's 2 students against 1 teacher, and the teachers also have a handicap because they have weights placed on them to restrict their movement. They can't move as much as they usually do. So in the practical exam, it's Momo and Todoroki against Mr. Aizawa. During the practical exam, Momo is creating these Russian nesting dolls windows constantly to know that her quirk is working, because if Mr. Aizawa is looking at her, then she can't create anything. But then Mr. Aizawa sneaks up on them and he's able to capture Todoroki, and Todoroki tells Momo to run for it. So Momo is running away, but Mr. Aizawa tries to catch her, but briefly she's able to escape from his grasp. So she runs back to where Todoroki is and she throws the Russian nesting dolls that she's been keeping up in the air. Mr. Aizawa hits them, not knowing that there are flash grenades inside, and he's blinded temporarily. So whilst he's blinded, she's able to lower Todoroki from the place he's been caught. So they make a run for it briefly. So Momo tells Todoroki her plan for capturing Mr. Aizawa. So she tells him that Mr. Aizawa's quirk hasn't been working as well as it used to since he got injured. So she tells him to keep on constantly using his quirk as Mr. Aizawa is running towards them, because there will be a brief moment where Mr. Aizawa blinks and he can use his quirk. In that brief moment Mr. Aizawa blinks, Todoroki is able to create this huge ice pillar to block Mr. Aizawa. So whilst he's blocked away from them, they can use their quirks freely for a brief moment. So hidden behind the ice, Momo begins her plan. She starts by creating these cloths that are similar to Mr. Aizawa, and she also creates these cloaks that they can hide under, because if they're hidden from Mr. Aizawa's side, he can't erase their powers. So they make a run for it, and Mr. Aizawa manages to catch one of them. Unknowingly, he catches this mannequin Momo created under the cloth, and she has a catapult to throw these bandages at him. She throws the items at him, but then he jumps back, and in that moment Momo tells Todoroki to use his fire quirk. The material she created expands when heated, so it's able to capture Mr. Aizawa because Todoroki released his flames. So after capturing Mr. Aizawa in these cloths, they are able to restrain him in the handcuffs and they win the challenge. So it was nice that her confidence was brought back after the loss from the sports festival. I don't know why she doubted herself. I think she was comparing herself to Todoroki. Of course, his quirk is very powerful and has really great offense, but she has a good quirk too. The good thing with her quirk is that it's very unpredictable. You can't predict what she's going to create, you just know that she can create things. And also it shows that she had a good strategy from the beginning by blinding Mr. Aizawa, so she had an idea of what to do. I don't know why she just thought that she would just let Todoroki do everything when she brings so much to the table herself. But yeah. So after the provisional license exam, we can see class 1A conducting a pretend fake emergency drill. So during this emergency drill, we can see Momo use her quirk. She creates a carriage which Ida is going to use to carry the other students and run with. So Ida is basically a horse. And she also creates this gun that shoots out a cast net to capture the pretend enemy. And these are the only two things she created during the emergency drill, which kind of sucks. It could have been cool if she could also create things that help with her mobility, like creating rollerblades or something to help her move faster. Another time we get to see Momo's quirk in action is during the class 1A versus class 1B combat training. I'm just going to summarize the combat training. So it was Momo's team against Kendo's team. So Kendo has a strategy where she plans to isolate Momo by her own and defeat Momo, because she thinks that by defeating Momo she's basically won. So she isolates Momo and then plans to use her quirk Big Fist to beat down Momo. But then Momo is creating shields constantly. Even though Momo keeps on creating shields, Kendo keeps on crushing them with her big hands. So she keeps on creating shield after shield and Kendo keeps on punching her down. Momo realizes that she has to create a cannon. She doesn't actually plan to use the cannon to shoot down Kendo, but to put objects within the cannon to give her teammates. So she creates this cannon, shoots a bunch of objects that land into Tokoyami and Invisible Girl. So they collect the items from Momo. The items were thermal goggles, ethanol and disinfectant spray to help against the enemy. So the thermal goggles do help Tokoyami to fly through and find where the enemies are hiding inside this giant pipe maze. So Tokoyami is able to capture the enemies briefly, but then one of the enemies has this power of creating mushrooms. So she creates a mushroom inside Tokoyami's throat so he can't breathe, so he's basically suffocating. So long story short, they lost, but Momo was still tried to subdue Kendo by creating invisible string that she can attach to Kendo. So she thought that by creating this string and the cannon and herself, Kendo will not be able to move, but Kendo was still able to move and capture Invisible Girl with her giant hands, even though she was carrying Momo and the cannon. Momo still lost. Also, I don't understand why she's always creating cannons. I feel like there's so many objects that can be created, but I guess she's just a fan of cannons or something. It was also cool to see how she could create something within something, like the things she gave to her teammates were inside the cannon, so we couldn't really see them when she shot them out, which was really smart because she kept them hidden. So she created an object inside another object because she didn't really have time to place the objects inside the cannon because Kendo is busy hitting her. But yeah, that was a cool thing that we got to see, and very creative with the items that she made, but she still lost, but it was a fair loss, honestly. Even during the Gigantomachia saga, we can see Momo's quirk in use. Gigantomachia has been let loose, and Midnight and the other heroes are trying to stop it, but it looks like it's going to be a struggle. So Midnight tells Momo that she's in charge and that she should create anesthetics to try to stop Machia. So at first Momo is doubting, but then she makes up her mind that yes, her and the other students are going to try to stop this thing. So she creates the anesthetics and hands them to the other students and tells them the plan of how they're going to try to stop Machia. When they're faced with Machia, everyone tries to throw the anesthetic into its mouth, but everyone is failing except Kirishima, who manages to get one anesthetic bottle into Machia's mouth. At the time, as they were battling Machia, this didn't do anything, but we find out that later on, because of the anesthetic, Machia was able to be restrained. Also, Best Genist helped to restrain Machia, not just the anesthetic itself, but you can see that even with her power, she was able to create something that can stop a giant, a literal giant. And also we can see as they're trying to get Machia to drink the anesthetic, we can kind of see that some of the students are using cannons to shoot down Machia. This was when Kirishima is trying to get the anesthetic into Machia. So we can kind of see the students using cannons, and I assume these cannons were created by Momo, although it's not said in the anime, but it looks like something she can create. And these are heavy duty cannons compared to the older cannons that were just not as strong or not as big. And also during the plan, as they were trying to capture Machia, we can see that Momo creates dynamites that she puts underneath so that Machia's movement can be stopped. So yeah, we can see Momo creating more and more items, and the fact that she was able to create something that was able to stop that thing is crazy. It really shows the potential that her quirk has. When Midoriya was in his vigilante era, we can kind of see Dark Shadow pin him on a wall, and Momo created a device to hold him down on the wall. I wish we could get a behind the scenes look of how long it took her to create this thing. It looks really cool, and I think the purpose of this machine was to hold him to the wall and also maybe to make him fall asleep because it has a headgear. Anyway, Midoriya broke out of that, but Momo also created electrical tapes so that Shoji can wear on his arms to pin him and Kaminari to the wall so that when Kaminari electrocutes Midoriya, Shoji doesn't get shocked. And in the most recent season of the show, we can see Momo creating this material that is being used to sustain the sky coffin that Shigaraki is trapped in so that he can battle Midoriya. So she's hoping to create this material that will sustain the sky prison. I would have loved to see Momo do more than this in this most recent season of the show. I feel like from the time of the practical exams and the forest training camp, her power or her quirk has mostly been used as a support, and I would have loved to see her quirks shown in a more offensive light and in a more combative style than what we got. I was expecting that in this season of the show. In making this video, I realized that Yaoyorozu is in more episodes than I thought. She has more screen time than I thought. I don't think her quirk is underrated, but like I said, I think it's a very versatile quirk with loads of potential. I would have also liked to see her in more fight scenes, honestly, but I think it's okay. I think for me, that's all I can say about Momo's quirk. I'd like to know your opinions. Do you think she has the most versatile quirk in the show, or what other quirks do you think are versatile in this series in My Hero Academia? So I'd like to know your comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. That's all from me. Thanks.